Elizabeth Taylor is one of the most legendary Hollywood actresses of the 20th century. She started out as a child star, then she gradually blossomed into a teen heartthrob, a teenage idol. In her teenage years, soon she married Conrad Hilton and had a famous wedding. Her thick dark eyebrows and thick black eyelashes surrounded her deep purple eyes. And she famously portrayed Cleopatra as one of her important roles. She was married many times to Larry Fortensky, to Conrad Hilton. She was married to Larry Fortensky as her final husband. Before that it was John Warner. Before that it was Richard Burton twice, 1975 and 1976, and 1964 and 1974. She was married to Eddie Fisher in 1959 to 1964, to Mike Todd in 1957 to 1958, Michael Welding 1952 to 1957, and Conrad Hilton was her first husband, 1950 to 1951. As you can see, she had some very tumultuous relationships as one of Hollywood's most coveted actresses. Her marriages did not last very long. Lindsay Lohan will portray her in her biopic, and here she is with her famous pouty red lips and dark locks. Unfortunately, her weddings were events of controversy and turbulence. Her life began in England as a child. Her mother immediately became a momager or stage mom and got Elizabeth directly into acting as a child. One of her first surprisingly critically acclaimed roles was as a young girl who rode a horse in a famous race. Cleopatra was one of her most favorite roles, but National Velvet put her in the spotlight first. Cleopatra was one of the most expensive movies ever made at the time in Hollywood. Butterfield 8 garnered her the Academy Award. She stayed in the spotlight for her many weddings and for her relationships with people like Michael Jackson. She was an advocate for AIDS. She has many fragrances, including White Diamonds, which is her best-selling fragrance. She was famous for her giant diamonds that were given to her by one of her husbands, by Richard Burton, and she was scandalized in the media throughout her career. Her many romances did fill the daily rags on both sides of the ocean in England and in the United States, for she continued to speak with a slight British accent throughout her lifetime. Elizabeth Taylor did a number of films. One of her first films was Lassie Come Home, another was Jane Eyre, and A Place in the Sun in the 50s in 1951 was one of her films. We also remember her for Butterfield 8, Cleopatra, and her heavily acclaimed role, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, where she was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Actress. And The Taming of the Shrew. She eventually won critical acclaim for her acting, not only for her physical looks, but for her ability to portray deep and dramatic characters. One of her last films was The Flintstones in 1994, where she portrayed the live-action character from the popular American cartoon. She was given the title of Dame Elizabeth Month, Taylor by the Queen of England, and was a British and American actress that lauded much acclaim in Great Britain and the United States. She's received BAFTA awards in Great Britain and Academy Awards in the United States. As a highly respected actress, she was a sex symbol at the time and continues to garner much respect from her fans worldwide.
By the mid-1950s, the American film industry was beginning to face serious competition from television, which resulted in studios producing fewer films, and focusing instead on their quality 158 to 165. The change benefited Taylor, who finally found more challenging roles after several years of career disappointments. 158 to 165. After lobbying director George Stevens, she won the female lead role in Giant, 1956, an epic drama about a ranching dynasty, which co-starred Rock Hudson and James Dean. 158 to 165. Its filming in Marfa, Texas, was a difficult experience for Taylor, as she clashed with Stevens, who wanted to break her will to make her easier to direct, and was often ill, resulting in delays. 158 to 165. 29. To further complicate the production, Dean died in a car accident only days after completing filming. The grieving Taylor still had to film reaction shots to their joint scenes. 158 to 166. When Giant was released a year later, it became a box office success, and was widely praised by critics. 158 to 165. Although not nominated for an Academy Award like her co-stars, Taylor garnered positive reviews for her performance, with Variety calling it surprisingly clever, 30, and the Manchester Guardian lauding her acting as an astonishing revelation of unsuspected gifts. It named her one of the film's strongest assets. 31. MGM reunited Taylor with Montgomery Clift in Raintree County, 1957, a Civil War drama which it hoped would replicate the success of Gone with the Wind, 1939. 166 to 177. Taylor found her role as a mentally disturbed Southern belle fascinating, but overall disliked the film. 166 to 177. Although the film failed to become the type of success MGM had planned. 32. Taylor was nominated for the first time for an Academy Award for Best Actress for her performance. After completing her MGM contract, Taylor starred in 20th Century Fox's Cleopatra, 1963. According to film historian Alexander Doty, this historical epic made her more famous than ever before. 40. She became the first movie star to be paid $1 million for a role. Fox also granted her 10% of the film's gross profits, as well as shooting the film in Todd AO, a widescreen format for which she had inherited the rights from Mike Todd. 10 to 11. 211 to 223. The film's production, characterized by costly sets and costumes, constant delays, and a scandal caused by Taylor's extramarital affair with her co-star Richard Burton, was closely followed by the media, with Life proclaiming it the most talked about movie ever made. 11 to 12, 39, 45 to 46. 56. Filming began in England in 1960, but had to be halted several times because of bad weather and Taylor's ill health. 12 to 13. In March 1961, she developed nearly fatal pneumonia, which necessitated a tracheotomy. One news agency erroneously reported that she had died. 12 to 13. Once she had recovered, Fox discarded the already filmed material, and moved the production to Rome, changing its director to Joseph Mankiewicz, and the actor playing Mark Antony to Burton. 12 to 18. Filming was finally completed in July 1962. 39. The film's final cost was $62 million, equivalent to $625 million in 2023, making it the most expensive film made up to that point. 46. Cleopatra became the biggest box office success of 1963 in the United States. The film grossed $15.7 million at the box office, equivalent to $156 million in 2023. 56 to 57. Regardless, it took several years for the film to earn back its production costs, which drove Fox near to bankruptcy. The studio publicly blamed Taylor for the production's troubles and unsuccessfully sued Burton and Taylor for allegedly damaging the film's commercial prospects with their behavior. 46 The film's reviews were mixed to negative, with critics finding Taylor overweight and her voice too thin, and unfavorably comparing her with her classically trained British co-stars. 56 to 58 1, 265 to 267 41 In retrospect, Taylor called Cleopatra a low point in her career, and said that the studio had cut out the scenes which she felt provided the core of the characterization. 13. Taylor intended to follow Cleopatra by headlining an all-star cast in Fox's black comedy What a Way to Go! 1964, but negotiations fell through, and Shirley MacLaine was cast instead. In the meantime, film producers were eager to profit from the scandal surrounding Taylor and Burton, and they next starred together in Anthony Asquith's The V.I.P.S. 1963, which mirrored the headlines about them. 42 to 45 1, 252 to 255, 260 to 266 Taylor played a famous model attempting to leave her husband for a lover, and Burton her estranged millionaire husband. Released soon after Cleopatra, it became a box office success. 264 Taylor was also paid $500,000, equivalent to $4.98 million in 2023, to appear in a CBS television special, Elizabeth Taylor in London, in which she visited the city's landmarks and recited passages from the works of famous British writers. Throughout her adult years, Taylor's personal life, especially her 8 marriages, 2 to the same man, drew a large amount of media attention and public disapproval. According to biographer Alexander Walker, whether she liked it or not, marriage is the matrix of the myth that began surrounding Elizabeth Taylor from when she was 16. 126 In 1948, MGM arranged for her to date football champion Glenn Davis, and she announced plans for them to marry once he returned from Korea. 79 The following year, Taylor was briefly engaged to William Pawley Jr., son of U.S. Ambassador William D. Pawley. 81, 75 to 88 Film tycoon Howard Hughes also wanted to marry her, and offered to pay her parents a 6-figure sum of money if she were to become his wife. 81 to 82 Taylor declined the offer, but was otherwise eager to marry young, as her rather puritanical upbringing and beliefs made her believe that love was synonymous with marriage. 13 Taylor later described herself as being emotionally immature during this time due to her sheltered childhood, and believed that she could gain independence from her parents and MGM through marriage. 13. Taylor was 18 years old when she married Conrad Nicky Hilton Jr., heir to the Hilton Hotels chain, at the Church of the Good Shepherd in Beverly Hills on May 6, 1950. 81 106 to 112 MGM organized the large and expensive wedding, which became a major media event. 106 to 112 In the weeks after their wedding, Taylor realized that she had made a mistake. Not only did she and Hilton have few interests in common, but he was also abusive and a heavy drinker. 113 to 119 Taylor suffered a miscarriage during one of his violent outbursts. 82 83 84 She announced their separation on December 14, 1950. 85 and was granted a divorce on the grounds of mental cruelty on January 29, 1951, 8 months after their wedding. 86 120 to 125 Taylor married her second husband, British actor Michael Wilding, a man 20 years her senior, in a low-key ceremony at Caxton Hall in London on February 21, 1952. 139 She had first met him in 1948 while filming The Conspirator in England, and their relationship began when she returned to film Ivanhoe in 1951. 131 to 133 Taylor found their age gap appealing. She wanted the calm and quiet and security of friendship from their relationship. 13 He hoped that the marriage would aid his career in Hollywood. 136 They had 2 sons, Michael Howard, born 1953, and Christopher Edward, born 1955. 148 160 As Taylor grew older and more confident in herself, she began to drift apart from Wilding, whose failing career was also a source of marital strife. 160 to 165 when she was away filming Giant in 1955. Gossip magazine Confidential caused a scandal by claiming that he had entertained strippers at their home. 164 to 165 Taylor and Wilding announced their separation on July 18, 1956, and were divorced on January 26, 1957.